Hello everyone, my name is Rafael and welcome back to my channel. I'm here today to speak about a different topic, and it's been in my mind for a long time actually. I want to speak about how much I miss the early 2000s. And I don't know if you have this kind of nostalgia uh, from the early 2000. A millennial. I'm 31, and I think about how much my life and life in general was different in that time, and how much things have changed. And I remember the shows I used to watch, and the movies I watched in that time. Um, it felt almost like a different life. Uh, because I'm 31, I don't remember actually the 90s. I don't have memories uh, from the 90s, but I remember the early 2000, 2005, 2010. And I remember I was a fan of uh, a few movies that I still remember, like the Fantastic Four with Jessica Alba and Chris Evans. I remember the shows I used to watch back then in English on Disney Channel, and I still miss that time. And I was a huge fan of the TV show Buffy, and I think that a lot of people I've watched online that is my age has the same nostalgia, because I think we are the last generation that has lived the world before social media, and I remember it, and sometimes I feel uh, it was a better time back then, and sometimes I feel it's better now. I actually don't know, because of course I was a different person. So, um, but I have a strong nostalgia from that time. And in that time, I remember that focus, my biggest goal was to learn and understand English. I've always been a language learner, and I've always had a passion for foreign languages. So back then, I remember that I studied a lot English. I especially remember that I used to watch movies in English without subtitles, and I remember that I couldn't understand anything. But now, uh, of course, I understand most of what they say. Uh, and I remember back then my level of English was much worse than now. I can still improve it, of course, by. But I remember that I start watching TV shows in English. But I remember that when I watched English content, I couldn't understand anything actually. And my consistency and my goal of finally trying to understand English, I was able to achieve it after many years that I did the same thing every day. And speaking about nostalgia, I remember that life was much easier back then because we didn't have smartphones. We had, of course, uh, phones, but the tools that we had with those phones, it was completely different, and it was much similar. Our life back then was more similar uh, to my parents' young life. We didn't have social media. We couldn't send many messages to people. Uh, we had to pay our messages. Uh, so it was just so, so different. And sometimes I miss uh, that time. And I think that I'm nostalgic of that time because, of course, I was a child, a teenager, and of course, life can be easier when you're just a child or a teenager. It's not always the case, but sometimes it is. And I don't think that I will go back to that time, but just the images, the memories that I have uh, from that time, it's very fascinating because I think, um, like I said before, that we didn't know how easy life was back then compared to now. And and now, of course, it's a different life. And I don't think the newest generations can understand 100% how life was because even our parents, our grandparents know uh, what I'm talking about, and for them, I think it's a very drastic change. The life that we are living compared to 6 years ago, I'm sure of that, and I'm sure that some of them miss how life was back then. But I'm speaking about my perspective as a millennial, as a 31 years old person. And I wish for some aspect that we could have a few things that we took it for granted back then. So be honest, I miss the fact that social media didn't exist. We interact with people that have social media. So it's different. Uh, it's a totally different experience. What I'm trying to say is that even if I delete all social media, we still interact with a different world. And now, what I see, it's like I see everything more complex, and it's even hard to explain. But it's what I see now compared to 30 years ago. Uh, there was, of course, YouTube, but was very different from now. And, and I just miss the fact that we didn't have that quantity of stimuli that we have now, uh, since we wake up until we go to sleep. And even though we can delete social media, we can delete apps, we can have a simpler life. I'm sure that there are a lot of millennials that would go back to the early 2000. It's coming to mind. I remember that I also used to watch Lizzie McGuire. I remember that sometimes I used to listen some Hilary Duff songs, even though I'm not a fan of her now. But I remember that it was nice listening to some of her songs. And I remember that in that time, I did a lot of trips. When I was a child and a teenager, I had the luck of traveling, and I traveled uh, around the country, around Italy. I'm from Italy, and uh, around Europe. And I miss the idea of of traveling often. I travel now, sometimes, but not often. Um, I'm a traveler. I love traveling, and I would travel every week, if I could. But it's more difficult now. If you want to comment, if you are a millennial, if you have the same nostalgia, if you miss those times, if you will go back to that time, comment below, and just write down all the thoughts that you have, that you would like to share with me, because I think I'm not alone in this, and I will read all the comments.